DreAllDay.com.
What's going on, everybody? Dre Baldwin, DreAllDay.com. I meant to do this video before the Western and Eastern Conference Finals began. I'm recording this on Wednesday. I'm going to put this out immediately when I get done recording it. But I wanted to make my predictions for the WCF and the ECF. The Western Conference Finals already started yesterday. Denver won game one. My prediction is not going to be any different. I'm going to give you my predictions for the East and the West. And I want to talk quickly about the teams that got eliminated. So first, let me talk about the teams that got put out in the second round, and then we'll talk about what I think is going to happen in the third round. So let's start in the Eastern Conference. So first in the Eastern Conference, the Heat, Miami, where I live, they defeated the New York Knicks. I don't really have a lot to say about the New York Knicks. The Knicks are not that good of a team. I thought the Cavs would beat them or at least put up much more of a fight in the first round, which they didn't. The Knicks did beat them. Jalen Brunson was like the best player on the court in that series. I didn't expect that. And then in the second round, Julius Randle was not very good. RJ Barrett was only good a couple times. Brunson was great in that series. And that's pretty much all I got to say about the Knicks. I think the Knicks are going to try to make a splash. I mean, they are in New York. They do play in Madison Square Garden. So they always got an opportunity to get a big name player, whoever that may be. I don't really pay attention to like the trade rumors and all that stuff. We'll see what happens. So nothing else to say about the Knicks. On the other side of the Eastern Conference playoffs, the Celtics beat my hometown, Philadelphia 76ers. I live in Miami, but I'm from Philly. I'm going to do a whole video talking about the Sixers because I got some other things I want to say about them. But overall, the Sixers were up 3-2, and they blew that series. So Doc Rivers blows another series as a coach. But Doc Rivers is just coaching. All right, James Harden blows another series. Joel Embiid blows another series. And everybody else on the team, it ain't really nothing to say about the other guys. Both those guys got MVP awards, right? Doc Rivers got a championship, right? So that's what they hang their hats on. I'm going to do a whole video on the Sixers. I'm going to put that out at the same time I put this out, so stay tuned for that. So that's all I'm going to say about the Sixers for now, but look out for that other video, which came out at the same time as this video. Now, on the Western Conference side, Denver defeated the Phoenix Suns in what was it, 6 games or 5 games? 6 games or 5 games, it doesn't matter. They beat the Suns. Chris Paul was injured for the second half of that series, but he wasn't really doing anything anyway. It's Devin Booker and Kevin Durant was the thing. And these guys playing a two-man game, score all the points. They had a couple games where they did that, but it wasn't enough. Denver was just a better team overall. What I have to say about this? Well, first of all, Devin Booker's a stud. He's one of the star players in the league. He stepped his game up a ton. Plays great. Kevin Durant is still a great player. And the thing with Kevin Durant, though, is this is looking kind of rocky ever since he was in Golden State. Actually, and then with the people, a bunch of people trashed him, including Stephen A. Smith famously, says the weakest move ever by a superstar when he left OKC to go play for the Golden State Warriors after OKC blew a 3-1 lead. They blew a 3-1 lead to the Warriors, and he goes and plays for the Warriors after they just beat them, which was, I call it a funny style move. I'm not going to say it's the weakest move ever, but it's funny style. Because, look, y'all just lost to them. Now you're going to go play for them. And then they won a couple championships when the team was loaded. And people had this whole thing, well, Kevin Durant went toe-to-toe with LeBron and he beat him. I don't look at it the same way because you joined a team that was already a champion. You joined a championship team that was already great. You added on to them. So it was you plus all of them went toe-to-toe with LeBron. It wasn't just you. So I never looked at it like, oh, KD beat LeBron in the finals twice. Not really, because that's not really how it went. You joined a team that was already set. Now, you had a team that was in the Western Conference Finals. Y'all lost. That would have been you going against LeBron. You didn't do that. And y'all lost. Y'all blew it. And then you went and go join the dudes that just beat you. It looked funny style. Like, they beat you. Now you want to go play with them? Like, you're supposed to come back and go at them. And Kevin Durant famously tweeted that and then tried to say he was talking about somebody else. Like, whatever. So Kevin Durant, he left the Warriors. He got injured that last year. And, sorry, Toronto Raptors fans, but had Kevin Durant not got injured, the Warriors would have won the championship that year too. What was that, 2019, the year Kawhi played in like half the games and then he was the man in the playoffs? They would have beat the Raptors had Kevin Durant not gotten injured. Klay Thompson could have gotten injured. They still would have beat the Raptors. But anyway, he gets injured that year, leaves Golden State, signs with Brooklyn, misses the year because he had the Achilles thing, right? Then Brooklyn ends up being a flop. So they get Kyrie and KD, which is not enough. Kyrie and KD together is not enough to be a championship team because KD, I like Kevin Durant. He's a great player. He ain't LeBron James. Sorry. Kyrie and LeBron is enough. Kyrie and KD is not enough. And both of them are wings. Both of them need the ball a lot. And then there just wasn't enough. They needed more than that. They went and got James Harden. They were playing good for a little while with James Harden, but then people had injuries and all kinds of stuff happen. They had one good year where they went to they got to the series against Milwaukee, and then Milwaukee ended up beating them because KD's foot was on the line. We hit that three or whatever. So that was their 1 year. Then James Harden's injured more. Kyrie's injured. All stuff happens with Kyrie. KD gets injuries. Then is pretty much over. James Harden asks out. They trade him to the Sixers. We're going to get to James Harden in my other video. And Kyrie gets traded first to Dallas. Then KD gets traded to Phoenix because he just wanted to be traded. He asked for a trade last offseason, didn't get it, came back, then finally gets traded in the middle of the season, goes to Phoenix, and everybody's like, oh my God, Phoenix, they're going to be a super team. They got Chris Paul, Devin Booker, DeAndre Ayton, and now Kevin Durant, and that was pretty much a flop. They didn't win one playoff series, right? Who they beat in the first round? I forget who they played in the first round. It doesn't matter. They won their one playoff series. Then they went to play against Denver, and they got pretty much stomped out. What's Kevin Durant going to do next? All right, the thing with Kevin Durant is ever since he left OKC, this dude's been kind of wandering, going to different teams, trying to make these super team things. And, I mean, we got to look at LeBron. And when people try to compare KD to LeBron, and people say, well, KD went toe-to-toe with LeBron. Look at what LeBron does with the teams that he's on. Look at what KD does with the teams that he's on. LeBron has bounced around to a couple teams. He's been on some teams that weren't really that good on paper, but he made them good. And LeBron is still doing that. Now, look at KD and the teams that he's been on and what they've done with him as the guy. And I think there is very little comparison between these two guys we're going career-wise. One time KD could measure up to LeBron was when he was teamed up with fucking Steph Curry, Draymond Green, and Klay Thompson all in their primes. I don't consider that an even comparison because it's not like he was drafted by the Warriors. He joined them when they were already good. So that's what I got to say about that. I don't know what KD's going to do moving forward. Who knows he'll even be on the Suns next season. He might go join another team and try to do something else again in a different way, which he has the right to do. That's why we got the way players move around these days. On the other side of the bracket, the LA Lakers defeated, who they beat in the second round? Can't remember. Oh, yeah, they beat the Warriors, a team we were just talking about. So they beat the Golden State Warriors. Steph Curry is still great. Draymond Green is still doing his thing. Klay Thompson seems to have slipped a little. I mean, he had a knee thing. He had that Achilles thing, which makes sense. Andre Iguodala is not really, seems to barely play anymore. He's probably close to retirement. He's a little bit older. With the Warriors, where the Warriors kind of seem to have messed up is they gave a big contract to the kid Poole, who he had a great playoffs last year when they won the championship, but it's obvious that he's the kind of player that he only does one thing. He scores. That's pretty much all he does. He's not dynamic like Steph and Klay and Draymond. Those guys are dynamic. They can do more than one thing. This dude, Poole, only does one thing, and the thing is he's playing with two guards who are great at putting points on the board already, so they don't really need him for that. They could use him. He's nice to have, but they don't need him. And they gave him a big contract. All he does is score points, and if I was talking to Jordan Poole right now, I'd say, dude, all you do is score points. You only do one thing. So he's not a dynamic player. I like dynamic players who add multiple facets of the game to their teams. He does not do that. And he was a player that they needed to deliver because they paid him a whole bunch of money. Now, he was on a minimum contract, not doing much, just scoring points. That'd be one thing. And they could fill that spot. They could give that money to somebody else who is dynamic, but he's not dynamic. And they gave him all that money, so now they kind of stuck with him. And so unless they make a trade, then they got to give something up and get him off the books. So they kind of shot themselves in the foot by giving him that deal, which I understand because he played great last year in the playoffs and he put up his stats and everybody was excited about him and they just won the championship. I mean, what more can you do? So Warriors kind of set themselves up for that one. And I think they will we'll see what they do. I'm not 100% sure what they're going to do moving forward. They do have some young guys. They got some pieces, but they need some other pieces. So now, going to the WCF and ECF, what I think is going to happen. So first Eastern Conference, we got Boston against Miami. The Miami Heat are growing on me. I thought they were going to lose in the first round. First of all, they damn near didn't make the playoffs. I thought they were going to lose in the first round. Giannis and the Milwaukee Bucks. I don't know if I said this on video, but I will say it on video right now. The Milwaukee Bucks really disappointed me, and it was a failure. So that whole diatribe Giannis did after they lost, and the reporter asked him, is this season a failure? Hell yeah, it was a failure. Y'all were the number one seed with the best record in the league, and y'all lost in the first round to an 8 seed in 5 games. That's a failure. I don't give a damn about his injury, and here's why. He got hurt in the first game. He hurt his back. Okay, you missed that game. Game 2, he probably could have played. That was the NBA Finals where he had played in the game? Yes, he would have. He didn't play in the game. And I believe the Milwaukee Bucks said, we're good enough to beat the Heat without Giannis. So they let him not play in Game 2, and they beat the Heat in Game 2 at home. Then they went to Game 3. Giannis should have played in Game 3. He was healthy enough to play in Game 3. This is just my theory. I don't know Giannis, and nobody's ever going to admit this. He was healthy enough to play in Game 3. Didn't play. Miami beat them in Game 3. So now they're down 2-1. Here's where I know that Giannis could have played. Here's my theory. Again, my theory knows. If they had won game 3 and went up 2-1 on Miami, Giannis would have sat out game 4. They would have won game 4 and went up 3-1. He would have sat out game 5. He would have just kept sitting out games as long as they kept winning. And this is the whole load management thing. And again, now you could say, well, it was an injury. He wasn't that injured. He could have played in those games. And I believe that the Miami Heat looked at that. And they knew exactly what was happening because Giannis doesn't really play. He doesn't play a ton of minutes. He plays like 32, 33 minutes a game, whereas a lot of stars play 38, 39 minutes a game. The Milwaukee Bucks manage his minutes a lot. And they use that chance with that back injury. Let's manage this injury. Load manage this injury. We're playing against the 8 seed. We could probably beat them anyway. And Miami Heat looked at that and took it as a slap in the face. Like, oh, they think they can beat us without this dude who's an MVP defensive player. They think they can beat us without him. And the Miami Heat took that as disrespect and they went out there and beat them. On top of the fact that Giannis, several things. Number one, Jimmy Butler scored 100 points in 2 damn games on them, on Jrue Holiday, who's allegedly one of the best defenders in the league. Jrue Holiday was too small for Jimmy Butler. And Giannis sitting there watching him score 100 points on Jrue. He ain't do nothing. You sat there and watched it. And then after the series, he talking about, well, I can only do what the coach says. I got to respect the coach's authority. Fuck that. All right, will Michael Jordan sit there and watch Clyde Drexler score 100 points on the Bulls and he ain't going to guard him? No, he's going to come in the timeout. He's going to inform Phil Jackson, yo, I'm guarding Clyde now because he got 100 points. I ain't going to sit there and just watch us lose because this guy got 100 points. But Giannis sat there and watched this. You're a defensive player of the year, bro. He scored 100 fucking points. You sat there and watched it happen. And then after the game, talking about, I got to do what the coach said. Fuck that. That makes no sense whatsoever. And then he said, I wish I would have had more chances to guard Jimmy. You had chances. You played. It was 48 minutes in the game. What were you doing? Where were you? You sat there and watched it happen. So the Milwaukee Bucks, huge disappointment. Absolutely, this is a failure. And I don't give a damn about Giannis' diatribe, his TED talk that he gave after they lost. This is an absolute failure, and there's no way around it. So the Miami Heat have grown on me. The Heat culture thing is a real thing. That these guys have actual real accountability, and they are tough as hell, and they got a leader, Jimmy Butler, who should still be on the Philadelphia 76ers. If the Sixers didn't capitulate to damn Ben Simmons, we know, see how that turned out, and let Jimmy Butler leave so they can get Tobias Harris. Do you even notice that he's on the court? We're going to talk about the Sixers again in a separate video. And do I think they can beat Boston? I think they can. I mean, it went 7 games last year. I think it's going to be a dogfight again like it was in the previous season. Boston, Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown, great duo. Jason Tatum stepped up, 51 points in that Game 7 against the Sixers. On the MVP, he was scoring a whole bunch of points on the guy who was allegedly the MVP, most valuable player in the league, which is pretty much the award that you give whoever played the best that season. Scored 51 points, and he was isolating on Joel Embiid and scoring on him in Game 7 on the road. This guy's the MVP. Again, I got a lot to say about the Sixers that I'll get to in a separate video. But Jason Tatum has stepped his game up. I think he is the best player in this series. Jimmy Butler's going to have something to say about that, but they're pretty much the same position, so it's going to be great watching those two go at it. It'd be exciting to see Miami make it to the finals if they were to do it, because last time it was in the bubble, so it wasn't actually in Miami. It was in Orlando, wherever that bubble was at. So it'd be great to see them make it to the finals. They absolutely have a chance to do it. I think the series will go 7. And since I live in Miami and I have no real connection to either of these teams other than the fact I live in Miami and Jimmy Butler should still be on the Sixers, I'm going to pick the Heat. I'm going with my heart here, not my head, and I'm picking the Heat. I want the Heat to win this. I want it to go 7. I want Miami to win on the road in Boston, Game 7, to make it to the NBA Finals. Again, don't bet on that. I think it can go 7. I think it can go either way. Who I think has the better team? I think on paper Boston has a better team than Miami, but the Bucks had a better team than Miami. I think, who did Miami play in the second round? No, they are better than the Knicks. But Bucks had a better team. They still beat them. So I'm going to go with the Heat in that. And then the Western Conference Finals, Denver against LA. Now, this is not – what happened in Game 1 has no effect on my pick because I was going to pick Denver anyway. I think Jokic is right now the best player in the league. I had an argument for Giannis. I wanted to see the Bucks rampage through the Eastern Conference so I could make the argument for Giannis. Damn sure wasn't making an argument for Joel Embiid. They did that whole thing, made it about race and all that stuff, participation trophy culture. To Joel deserves an MVP. Jokic shouldn't get 3 in a row. Jokic is the best player in the league right now. So I believe I always go with the best player that I can pinpoint if it's close enough. Again, with the Miami-Boston one, I think Tatum is the best player, but Jimmy Butler, he can step his game up at any time. So that's why I'm giving throwing Jimmy a bone there and picking Miami. But I think Jokic is the best player in the league. LeBron and Anthony Davis, of course, are still amazing. Denver has a better team top to bottom than LA does as far as their rotations. This is going to be a good series. I think both teams are going to throw some haymakers and take hits. But I'm going to go with Jokic simply because I don't like the fact that a lot of voters pick Joel Embiid just because of the, again, participation thing. Well, he deserves one. It's not right that Jokic wins 3 in a row. If you're the best player, you get the award. It doesn't matter how many in a row he won. So I don't like that whole narrative thing. So I want Jokic to go to at least to the finals, and then they can look at the other guys who didn't even make it past the second round and be like, okay, these are the guys that got the votes over me, which makes no sense. And I also think Denver just has a great team. I think Denver might have the best team in the NBA that's left right now. The 4 teams left, I think Denver has the best team. And it will be great for Jokic to win it, to shut up a whole bunch of people, including MVP voters who gave it to Joel Embiid because he campaigned and cried for it, literally cried for it. And yeah, that's where I stand. So I'm going to go with Denver in 6. I'm going to go with Denver in 6 on the road to finish it out in LA. And I'm going to go with Miami in 7. So Denver against Miami for the NBA Finals. That's my pick. Y'all let me know what y'all think. I know a bunch of y'all probably got the exact opposite of that, but that's fine. Let's see what happens. Work on your game. Dre all day.